What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to Wattage. My name is Abe, and in this video, I want to show you guys the Odroid H4 Plus. But first, I would like to thank Ameridroid for sending this device out. They were kind enough to help give us a good deal on those. Although I did buy these, I will link them down in the description, and you guys should go check them out. They are based here in the United States, and so it's really easy to get your hands on these parts with super quick and fast shipping. They also already do all the import duties and fees, so you guys don't have to worry about that once you purchase one of these devices or any other device from their website. Okay guys, real quick, this video is going to be long about this device. There will be timestamps down below in the description, so if you want to skip to any specific part to know more about this device, please check the timestamps in the description before clicking off the video, because it would be of a great help to us and to see if this is the right device for you guys. So I don't want to drag this video on, guys, but let's go take this device over to the bench and let me show you what it has on it, and you can decide if one of these will be a good option for you, as well as we will do some testing with this device in this video as well as some other videos going forward. Okay guys, let's talk specs on these boards. They come in a couple different configurations. This one specifically here has the N97, 4 cores, 4 threads. It is the latest Alder Lake N, and it has single threading up to 3.6 gigahertz and a 6 megabyte cache. Now, you might be like, oh, that's less than the N100. This is actually faster than the N100. So they're not all equal, okay? So this gives us 200 megahertz more speed than an N100 device does. This also comes in an N305 with 8 cores and a little bit faster speed as well, if you would like to pick that one up for yourself. One thing to note with these that's really good is that it does support things like AVX2 support, which is a big deal if you want to care about compression, encryption, and media emulation. It's great for that. These boards have also been officially verified to work up to a 48 gig DDR5 4800 RAM stick. Now, I have seen posts before where people say these also work with 64 gigs. So if you'd like to try, people are having good luck with that. As you can also see, this has an NVMe slot right here on the bottom. So if you guys would like to put an NVMe on here, you can do that. Another thing to note, this specific version is 36% faster on average, and the Ultra is roughly 83% faster than the H3 Plus. So these are a huge upgrade when we're talking about speed. Now, let's talk about storage and networking here and why I wanted to have Ameridroid send out these devices for us. Well, a couple things. We get 4 native SATA 3.0 ports on the H4 Plus and the H4 Ultra, thanks to an amazing SATA controller that's on board. So we are not throttling or depending on the limited PCI slots of the N95 or the N series. Those aren't affected. We have a dedicated chip right over here on the board to handle that. That's great hardware offloading for computing and NAS speeds and whatever, right guys? Like, I just think that's something that we really need to point out. As well as I mentioned, there is that PCI 3.0 times 4 M.2 slot on the bottom, and that is great. This supports 2.5 and 3.5 inch drives. You just will use this DC input at a higher voltage for hard drives if you want to power the hard drives off of this device, but it is supported. You can use a normal like 45 to 60 watt version if you're just going to use SSDs. And another big reason why I wanted this device for this project and future projects is we have 2 NICs. And not only do we have 2, but they're 2.5 gigs each, and each one is an Intel NIC. So we're gonna get all the support thanks to the i226V controllers. It's gonna work great with OpenSense, pfSense, Proxmox, any piece of hardware that you're gonna throw at this device, you will be able to do so with these network controllers thanks to Intel. Okay, so now let's talk for some of you guys that may care about display or media virtualization. Unlike some NAS-only boards, the H4 Plus is very usable as a desktop media machine thanks to our ability to have fast graphics as well as a lot of RAM. The GPU is a 24 execution unit with the N97, which is much faster than Jasper Lake, guys. So they're honestly incomparable. And then if you want to use this with desktop displays and not just like a home server NAS, maybe a personal computer, we do have 3 ports here, 2 display ports and an HDMI port, and these do support 4K 60 output and DisplayPort 1.2, as well as the HDMI is 2.0, so 4K is 100% possible with this device. Now, if you care about game emulation, there are people showing, and I've read some articles online, that this device has worked great for PS2, GameCube emulation, and even Linux Vulkan emulation. So that is something, if you care and would you like to try it out with this device, you can totally do that. Now, as we can see, this device has been passively cooled by a massive heatsink, which is great. But it does have a fan header on this device. So if you would like to use that fan header, you can use up to a 120 by 120 millimeter PWM fan. Or if you'd like, they also have an official case, which can be found on the Ameridroid website, with a fan on top that you can use for this as well. Now, on the H4 Plus and the H4 Ultra, these devices come with dual BIOS support. So if one version gets corrupted, you can always go to the other known working BIOS, which is a great security feature for you hardware tinkerers. Now, I know a lot of you guys, especially our European friends out there, that are power conscious, right? This device can use 15 to 16 watts doing things like 4K. You know, we could get boosts up to like 25 watts, but there are a lot of videos showing that this can idle between 2 and 6 watts. So I'd like to test that out and see where this sits in the whole scheme of things. And you guys can decide for yourself if this would be a great device for you. Now, why are some other exact reasons why I picked this device up? Well, a couple things. No soldered RAM. I know RAM prices are expensive right now, but they might not be expensive in the future, and I don't want to be limited by 8 gigs or 16 gigs. If we can get it up all the way up to 48, 32, or 64 on this device, this is a great device that you can have for a very long time. It also supports eMMC modules, SATA, and NVMe for storage, so you have tons of options, and you can again buy those eMMC storage options on Ameridroid's website. They have those listed right now and available. And again, this is a x86 board, so we're not going to be limited by any specific pieces of software. Pretty much anything and everything is going to run on this device. So again, if you're looking for a small efficient x86 board, that can be a 4-bay NAS, a Proxmox node, an all-in-one router, or even a mini computer or emulator, I honestly just think this is one of the best devices on the market to be able to do that. So let's get on with testing the hardware, as well as checking out what kind of watt utilization we're going to see out of this device at idle, as well as what the BIOS looks like. Okay, so this is what the BIOS looks like. We can see it's made by a hard kernel. We have this BIOS information. We can go over to the advanced tab and look for some key features I'm sure you guys are going to be interested in. So one, we have CPU configuration and N97. You can go through any of that. Power and performance. So there's power management control, turbo performance. You know, you can switch between any of these speeds, enable, disable, anything in here you may see that you need. There is a turbo mode that is enabled by default. And then we can see that we have a GT power management control, and it is enabled, and default is max frequency. And then you can disable the turbo GT frequency if you'd like to, but I'm going to leave it on so we get the most performance out of our device. You can also see we do have a TPM device on board, TPM 2.0, which is the current standard, using some of the latest encryption standards like SHA-256. And you can see here that we can enable ACPI if we would like to. This may apply to you or not. And you can see that S3 can be suspended to RAM. And then you can see this is a very feature-full BIOS, so you can see the status of your system and your smart fan functions if you would like to mess with those if you plug a fan in. And then you can see we have an RTC alarm. These do have a little button battery to keep track of time, as well as settings if the device loses power. And we can able to awake on an alarm event select fixed time, and system will wake on the hour, the minute, and the second specified if you would like to do so. And if you care about serial port information, you can see there are numerous settings here and redirection settings if that applies to you. Here we can also see that we have USB device configurations, and you can look through these if any of this applies to you as well. And you can see if we enable the network stack settings, we have things like PXE support, HTTP support, IPv6 and IPv4 for the both of those. So I think having PXE support on a device like this is great, especially if you would like to start mass installing them as a business, a data center, a home lab. You could plug them in and these could get some configurations over the network and auto install automatically, which is a great feature to have. Okay, so I just went ahead and I plugged in a USB device with Proxmox on it, and it looks like we went up about 1.5 watts with a USB device plugged in. Okay, and so now the Proxmox installation, it looks like we're sitting at 14.7 watts. Okay, now we're at 17 watts starting installation. Okay, and now we're just going to go through and start installing this. We only have the one drive to install on, and then you can pick your country. And I will admit this is very small on my screen, so it's pretty hard to see. Okay, now we're just going to go ahead and let this install real quick, and then we'll log into this device on the computer and check it out. Alright, and before we do that, I would just like to show you guys that as you can see right here, it is sitting at 6.2 watts with Proxmox installed, a NVMe drive, the power, and an Ethernet cord. So you probably have more drives, but more or less this is how it would sit idle most of the time if you have it racked in a server. You're not going to have anything connected to it really besides the Ethernet cable and that hard drive or SSD. So just to give you guys an idea. Okay, real quick, an interesting find, and I've had this issue with other dual NIC devices before. If you look at the picture, you can actually see that I moved the Ethernet cable from the left port to the right port. So for some reason, when I was installing Proxmox and I set the IP address for the port, it appears that hard kernel defaults the right Ethernet port as the default port. And so then I got internet connection back and I was able to go to the website once I switched it over to the right Ethernet port, and we can see we're still at 7 watts. Okay, and so here we are on this Odroid H4 Plus device. We can see if we just go to the device summary, what we're looking at. So I just have an 8 gig stick of DDR5 in there right now, and we can see with Proxmox, which is essentially Debian Linux as a GUI, we're using about 1.54 gigs of data just sitting, and to install Proxmox you're looking at about 3.5 or technically 3.66 gigs of memory required to install it, right? So this just gives you guys a good idea of this board, and we can check our server loads and things like that, but we can go ahead and try running a Minecraft server on this or something similar and seeing how it does. But I think it's going to do great because it's an N97. Loads and loads of people do stuff on N100 devices. So please leave a comment down below of what you guys would like to see of this device. And if this device interests you, I know this video is already probably kind of long, so I don't want to dig insanely deep into this, but I did kind of want to show you guys off this device and the wattage that it's using, just sitting with nothing really running. So again, 7.1 watts to 6 watts sitting idle right now with just Proxmox running. And it looks like while we're downloading something, we're sitting at about 13 watts. Okay, and real quickly, let's go ahead and start the installation of a Linux VM and see how it does and what the wattage looks like. Okay, and it looks like behind me, I just checked it, it's in at 13.8 watts, so it seems like it really loves to idle around 6, and when it's doing stuff and it's not getting pushed too hard, it likes to go between 12 and 14 watts. Okay guys, and now we just have a Linux box running, no Minecraft server yet, and it looks like we're sitting at about 7.4 to 8 watts. So every time we start a virtual machine, it doesn't really look like we're affecting the wattage too much unless actual traffic and things are affecting the machine. If we go back up to the RAM, you can see we've gone up to 2.88 gigs from last time, which if I recall was 1.6 or 1.6, one of the two. You guys can recall from the video, but we're not seeing a huge difference as well in resource utilization, which with this device, which is great. And our CPU, as we can see with Proxmox running, when there's not really a load, we're at less than a 1% of the CPU's utilization and capability. So we have tons and tons and tons of headroom with this device. Okay, and so now I'm in a Minecraft server hosted on the Odroid device, and it's sitting at 9.8 watts right now with the game running and loaded. So that's actually pretty impressive, not even 10 watts. And so looking at it just a second ago, as I'm running around, it goes up to about 17 to 19 watts, which is still amazing and super acceptable in my opinion. So I think that's pretty cool. It looks like it supports a game like Minecraft, which can be pretty CPU and single core intensive quite easily. It's well within the bounds of the cooling ability of passive cooling with the big heat sink that it has. It's able to manage the demand of the game as well as the graphics. So that is really cool to see for such a flexible and relatively affordable device. And if we go back over here and we just look at our stats with the Minecraft server running as well as connected to it, we are sitting about 4.84 gigs. So we're only kind of coming up about a gig again. So it's really got a lot of headroom. Again, you can put up to 48 approved, but people have done 64 gigs of RAM in one of these. And we can see the CPU is still only sitting at 7% while running a game with players like myself connected to it. So this device is super capable. It has great overhead, great flexibility. Again, thank you Ameridroid for sending this out. I hope you guys liked this video and it was informative. And as well as if you would like to add Wake on LAN on this device, it is supported. I will leave a link down below. You will just have to do that in the Linux kernel of whatever device software that you have installed on this device, I mean. So again, thank you for watching. My name is Abe, signing off with another video.